FM26 has massively changed tactics. You will now have in possession and out of possession tactics, so two completely different things that also change the roles that the players in the exact same positions are performing. That's exciting, but they've also, it appears, gotten rid of attack, support, and defend. So are we just renaming some of the positions? Hello, my friends. This is Gray Hair Gaming again. FM have just dropped another video where they talk about the change to the tactical system where you don't have one tactic now for in and out of possession. It's been split into two different roles. That's exciting because it brings a lot of potential change for you, and it more accurately reflects what actually happens in football these days. So let's take a look at what it looks like. They've got it clicked on in this part of the video on both, meaning it's going to show you the in possession on the far left side and the out of possession on the middle kind of side, as to what your two essentially in possession, out of possession tactics are. They talk about, let's say you've got an advanced playmaker and you want them to be more of a presser, then you can have a role where obviously as an advanced playmaker, they're not going to be playmaking when you're not in possession. So you want them to press and win the ball high. I can also see how this makes scouting players a bit more challenging because a player may only fit your in possession or your out of possession tactic, not both. So do you pick up that star player and adjust your tactics to fit them? Or do you say, I'd rather have somebody that fits the system that I like? You can see that here. They've got Phil Foden in possession, obviously advanced playmaker. He likes a free roll, which I'm guessing is the Raumdeuter being renamed. But out of possession, he's a 3-star on splitting outlet attacking midfielder or just attacking midfielder, central outlet attacking midfielder, so on and so forth. So it gives you more depth into how you need to set up your tactic and how you need to scout players to fit that tactic. The thing I'm calling out here is it looks like to me they've gotten rid of attack, support, and defend, which used to be a way to relatively easily balance kind of how your squad played, right? You want to have somebody on defend, somebody on support, somebody on attack on, let's say, your right wing, rather than everybody on attack. So that appears to be gone, and instead we've renamed. I'm not saying they've only just renamed it, but they've gotten rid of it and given new names. But we'll have to see once we get more details as to what does a splitting outlet attacking midfielder mean. Does that mean an attacking midfielder on attack? Is the text essentially going to read the same on your tactics screen? We'll just have to wait and see. So to kind of highlight this, let's look at the attack and the support versions of the central midfield advanced playmaker in FM24 and compare it to the text we're seeing for FM26. So FM26, again, operate high up the pitch between the opposition's midfield and defense, looking to receive passes in pockets, and I'm guessing it says something about them playing it to other players. The attack role for the advanced playmaker, obviously the middle text of both the attack and the support are the same, right? Drop in the holes between opposition's midfield and defense, making himself available for his team to make passes, yada, yada, yada. But on attack, look to run at the defense from deeper positions, aiming to craft out crossing or through balls. With a support duty here, the advanced playmaker will stay in the hole and look to spray passes to support players and forwards. So have we essentially split the attack and support duties from the same role into just something that's called a different thing? So you only have one advanced playmaker here. And this is interesting because one of them is called attacking midfielder, which if you look at the tactics board on the far left of your screen, they're both on advanced playmaker in the middle of the park. So usually you would see attacking midfielder as like a number 10 role, like that next line of the formation. So maybe the advanced playmaker is more of the support role and the attacking midfielder is the advanced playmaker on attack or the central midfielder on attack. Overall, I think that's fine because it probably makes it a little bit more clear to folks that are new to the game as to what do you want this person to actually be doing in your tactic. Likewise, they show then in the out of possession, you don't have what looks like to me an advanced playmaker role, which makes sense. They don't have the ball, so they're not going to be playmaking. What do you want them to do? Well, do you want them to press as a pressing central midfielder, or do you want them to screen, hold position? So it's not like you've exactly taken the central midfielder on defend and just made that the screening central midfielder, but you do get the hold position and the caution with that. But it's the kind of taking the, I want everyone to press and being more specific about who you want to press, which should make it more tactically interesting for us as players. Now, they have introduced something they're calling the visualizer, which at first glance just looks like they've taken the thing where you click tactics and it used to slide out from the left side of the screen and you'd be like, okay, all those individual instructions are just now presented differently. But what it's doing a little bit differently is then showing you in each of the thirds what your team is doing. And I think that's a very nice change. So let's take a look at what it looks like right now. So the defensive third, it's showing what is the team going to do in possession in the defensive third, right? You're going to be balanced in your pass reception. You're going to be patient. I'm not sure why work the ball into the box is there. Maybe that's just the overall like instructions for in possession, right? Because you're in your own third, so you're not going to take a shot from distance in your own third. But maybe it's the stuff on the right where the build up. So how do you want them to build up? Those are 4 different options. I think that the first thing, I think that's confusing. You have to select the 4 different options. Which one have I selected is down at the bottom, but you're essentially saying in your own third, I want balanced dribbling. I want patience. Again, I'm not sure how being in your own third is going to work the ball into the box. Same thing with shots from distance. Okay, I was excited, but now I'm kind of confused. Okay, I've just watched it again. I'm still confused by the selections on the right. So like right here on the screen. But what I do like is the thing on the far left side of the screen because it shows you positionally where your players should be in your own third. You see how it shifts, right? So let's look at Nico Gonzalez, right? We go back. That's the middle third. The defensive third, he's playing more centrally, right? So like that makes sense. But then when you're attacking, or sorry, there's defending. When you're attacking, he's over here. Guardiola is kind of forward as the fullback, maybe a little inverted. He's not as wide as Foden. And then in the attacking third, this is where the players are going to be. Again, I think the stuff over here is a little confusing because again, if we go back to the maybe I'm just thick here, right? So maybe this is overall. This is the overview section. Okay, so showing overall we want to be balanced in our dribbling and work the ball in the box. But again, in the defensive third, why are we working the ball into the box? Maybe that is an instruction that's a little bit different. Like, don't just ping it forward. We're not punting it, right? But I would think that would be covered by the passing directness much shorter. Versus in the attacking third, we've got the same thing, much shorter, lower tempo still. So I'm not sure about this. This, I think, makes a lot of sense, especially if you're like, I don't know what an inverted wingback versus an inverted fullback does. This will literally just show you how that works. And I think that is a massive, massive difference. They've also moved the transitions from the overall tactic into the individual sections of the now essentially 2 tactics that you have. So when possession has been lost, do you want to counter press or regroup? When possession has been won, do you want to counter or hold shape? Those types of things. I also think it's neat here, right here, they're showing supporting runs. So that can help you determine, do I want my players to make those runs? Or, hey, we won the ball back, let's like kind of just hang back, let that say that back line or those maybe wingers. And the example they use is this attacking transition showing counterattack. Obviously, that's a thing when you've got the ball, so that's in possession. And your defensive transition in terms of, I was thinking this was in terms of like the line of engagement or like defensive line. I'm not sure what defensive transition standard means, but you have more options here. Pressing trap, balanced, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, yes. So, and I like some of the visuals. I think this is an improvement overall. You just are going to have to play with it to get a better understanding of exactly how it works. The last thing they call out is that, yes, this is more complicated. So if you're brand new, how do I juggle all this? Or if you're not a tactical expert, how do I juggle all of this? And so your assistant is going to say, okay, what do you want to do in possession? And then it will make a suggestion for the out of possession. This is a very clear example, right? You're in a 4-3-3, so you're going to play in a 4-1-4-1 and have your wingers drop a little bit more defensively. So I think that's positive. It just depends on how good the assistant recommendations are. I think we've all experienced in random aspects of the game, whether it's, in a match where they're doing the team talk recommendations at halftime or something about playing time for players. Some of the recommendations from your assistant are a little wonky. So hopefully they've dialed that in a little bit where all of a sudden it's not saying, hey, you should play 6 at the back, which obviously that's kind of a little tongue in cheek there. But you get my point. It's one thing to offer help and suggestions, but the help and suggestions have to be good? Or do we risk that like the suggestions they're going to offer are going to be like pretty basic, right? Hey, you're in 4-3-3, drop to a 4-1-4-1. Like don't leave your wingers just hanging out high, not helping out defensively. Versus getting more complicated and nuanced. And just going back here it's more towards the beginning of the video, you can see here on the right side of the screen, you now have to pick positions for in and out of possession. Now, obviously that's based on the tactic, so it's going to just slide them down. Like, again, you're playing in a 4-1-4-1 here, so it's going to take Foden and Doku and make them midfield right and left, and then you have to pick the individual roles. So I'm just curious how that's going to function in the actual game when you're doing it. Or is this just the both screen? Because obviously on the individual in possession and out of possession screens, you're going to have just one. And I'm also wondering why they don't have any role abilities here. Maybe that's just testing. And I thought I saw part of a video, but maybe it was like just a transition in the video where it would show kind of a lighter version of the player showing where they would be in the out of possession. But I think that might get messy if your out of possession shape is significantly different from your in possession. We can also see they have the substitutes listed twice. So right, you just like you've got them all the players listed here in the tactic and then the substitutes. It's also got them listed here. I'm not sure if that's necessary. And I've just looked up what TWM is allegedly supposed to be in one of the leaks of all of the different player changes, or player role changes, I should say, is a tracking wide midfielder. And the reason I'm calling that out is I think this little icon here is showing this is essentially like your defensive winger, kind of, in and out of possession. Like defensive winger on defend, where he is going to drop deep to help out more defensively, where you see this is, I'm guessing, a wide midfielder. Doku's not going to do that out of possession. And I also think these red indicators are showing that these players are going to, because of the in possession tactics and instructions that you've selected, these are the directions they're going to move. Now, I'm not sure why inverted wingback Nuri is going straight to the right, while inverted fullback Lewis is going directly forward. But it shows that these guys are going to get involved in the attack. And Foden is in like the diagonal. Obviously, as an inside forward, you would expect that. So I don't believe this is from selecting attack. I think this is from selecting different things in the in possession tactic, if that makes sense. Overall, I think the visualizer is the biggest and most impactful change here, showing you in your defensive, middle, and final third where you should expect your players to be and how they're going to position themselves and play. I think that's going to make it easier because now we have essentially doubled our tactical options with the in and out of possession, which is great, but I think that can get more complicated pretty quick. So giving a visual expectation to players as to how that might line up. And I'm curious if then on like match day, if your assistant is then going to show where the opposition's team might line up and where there might be, maybe this isn't green and it's red, or this part's red because you are at risk because of the opposition. So I'm curious how it shows how the opposition is going to line up against how you're going to line up, or if that is maybe too easy. If you're like, well, then I'll just move players around to where they fit. Overall, it confirms that you are going to have in and out of possession. I'm a little confused by this section, but I think it's a positive change. I do wish they would call out, we've removed attack, support, and defend just for clarity purposes, but I do think that is what has happened, and we've just given them different names so you can be more specific with how they act, which, again, I'm not being critical. I just think it's a logical thing to do. Just call it out that you've gotten rid of it so we could be more specific with our tactics. But that's the news from today, my friends. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button. I've got 22% off of FM26 in the description below. It goes through Fanatical, which is an authorized Sega retailer, and it really supports the channel. Hit the like button, and we'll see you next time.